Cincinnati's ready for the Big 12. It was time for them.
I am fired up.
It's a blessing to be able to be in this league with y'all, putting on for UC.
Cincinnati, a basketball school.
And there he goes. Touchdown! Bearcats!
Raquama again. Another slam inside.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GoBeercats podcast, part of the Catskeller Social Club. I'm one of the co-hosts now, officially, if you're in the Discord, you know that Darin will be joining us for the rest of the football season at least. So I'm Brandon, he's Darin, this is the GoBeercats podcast, and thanks for being with us every week from now on, Darin. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I mean, thanks for reaching out and extending a hand. I've missed talking ball on a regular basis, so I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. I guess this is Brandon Trame's fault. If he would have never recommended you for the first, tailgate, the den, episode or guest spot, then I guess this will never happen. So shout out to Brandon for having a good recommendation, I guess.
Well, he's sneaky like that. So fun fact, like a few years ago, he was even talking about you and me pitching content together for the den. So it's funny how things work out.
No, he's out here orchestrating everything. Yeah. I see you, man. I see you. All right. Before we jumped into the show here, we found out that we both have had a long weekend. We've both, for different reasons, I guess, but we were both up until 2 a.m. watching the Bearcats lose to BYU. I was hosting the Oktoberfest at the Delhi Liquor Store when that went late, and ended up staying up late because of it. And you were following along with FC Cincinnati on their triumph this weekend, bringing home the shield. And now we sit here on Sunday, pretty tired. I think we're pooped.
Yeah, I'm exhausted. I'm here doing this. I got my my double jab because Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Travis Kelce, said it was all right. So we're doing this before that kicks in later today as well.
Very nice, very nice. We got a lot to talk about for this BYU game, and a lot of we can talk some wrinkles that the Catskeller Social Club threw in here for this game. We can talk the good, the bad, the ugly here for the Bearcats loss, now on an official 3-game losing streak heading into a bye week. Before we do all of that, though, Darin, this is the GoBeercats podcast. Our sponsor is the Delhi Liquor Store, so it is time for a beer. I don't know if you feel like drinking. I know I certainly did all weekend, but we'll get to that in a second. The Delhi Liquor Store, though, has you covered for everything that you need with a great beer selection, bourbon, wine, cigars, anything in between. So check them out. I'm officially no longer behind the bar there as of Saturday night, getting a little busier with the work stuff and coaching and whatnot. So you will not see me there as regularly anymore, but shout out to them for being the sponsor. I do love it. And again, the beer strike march is on. I'm going with a classic ice water here tonight.
Same. Got my giant Stanley, one of like 70 in the house that we have. This one's mine. The fiance has the other ones there. But yeah, keep it clean today.
The beer strike continues for myself. I did have to, I want to be fully transparent here with this, right? I'm like, you saw it at the tailgate. Like I had 3 hoists for the Oklahoma game. I think 3. I don't remember. Like people were mad at me. They were giving me like, what are you doing, man? The councilman, for example, I went over to their tailgate to try to see if I could find Hummer and, say what's up to some of the other people that are in the Discord. And the councilman was big mad at me. He's, what do you do? This is real, like type of thing. I did have to take a break from the beer strike last night it was my official last night working at the bar. I could not leave the people disappointed. So I did break the strike momentarily. I crossed the line momentarily, but I am back on it today. Again, full transparency here. My wedding anniversary is next weekend, and my wife has already told me the beer strike is vetoed for next weekend for the anniversary. So hopefully the people can forgive me there. I guess I should have ran that by the boss before I went on this grand journey. But nevertheless, ice water will do the job, and I will have to take a couple breaks from the beer strike. But I'm dead set on doing this. I was contemplating many things after this loss. I was like, maybe I can just go the Hummer route and shotgun a beer for every now we lose by or something. Like trying to weasel my way back into drinking. But at this rate, it might. I gotta. Maybe you can tell me what exactly I said. I hope I didn't say a football win. I hope I just said a Bearcats win, because it might be basketball season before we get our next win. I don't know.
You might have to, bend the rules a little bit, amend the plan.
An amendment. I do love a good amendment, Darin. That's good.
I mean, it's been a while since we had a red zone touchdown. You could, shift it to a red zone touchdown, maybe.
Okay. Okay.
There's some options there.
Yeah, we're gonna have to reassess this strike going down into October here with the heart of Big 12 play coming up. I don't know if everyone saw this or not. I was super busy yesterday, but we did end up picking 5 winners for our Cincy Light pint glass giveaway. Our nice Cincy Light pint. We had 5 of these to give away. And just to read off those names again, just so that they know if you haven't seen it, I've contacted 2 people already, but our winners were David TP, Chad McDevitt, Mike Lieberman, Jamie Rootzong, and Alex McQueen. Alex has already said that he is going to forfeit his winning pint glass because he is across the pond somewhere in England, maybe. I don't know exactly. I don't know at all. So he said he does not want to risk the shipping across international waters, so I'm free to pick another winner here, and I have not done that yet. So I guess I should have probably done that before we jumped on here. But a new 5th winner will be announced here this week. So we'll see if we can't get these pint glasses out to people as soon as possible.
Very nice.
Yes, sir. Let's talk football. Let's start. I mean, you tell us where to start. The good, the bad, the ugly, anywhere in between. Your thoughts, reactions.
Let's start with the bad again.
Let's do it.
I think we have some good positives to finish on. I have to be
Okay.
someone guy, but
end on a high note, maybe. I like that.
I mean, where to start? This was a game where we seemed to improve in some areas, but then in spite of that, shot ourselves in the foot. You give them a 14 spotter, on 2 turnovers. I'd even say you spot them 21 based on that touchdown at the end of the series before the half. And I'll tell you more on that later. But 21 points, and that game's looking a little bit different, if you lock those down. Even if you go 3 and out in some of those, it's looking a little bit different.
The pick 6 at the beginning of the game to spot him, the touchdown was, I guess, at the time a little bit of foreshadowing about as how the rest of the game would go. But that was especially brutal. I mean, in the Discord, we're talking about, the luck factor, or in how that's measured. And there had to be a little bit of that on that play, because even, the announcers did a good job, like breaking down the highlight of that and how it was blown coverage. The defender was supposed to be in man or supposed to be in zone. And he didn't know what he was doing and was in the wrong coverage, and ended up working out great for him because he was in the wrong spot at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely had some, lucky moments, throughout the night. I mean, I'm a big believer in winning, in spite of that, and winning. So that's or doing well enough that has no effect on your outcome. Even without that, there's a miscommunication on the route. Emery also doesn't have time to make another read on that. It seemed like it was his first read. Receiver falls down, and where Emery wanted to throw it versus where the receiver looked like he was going to end up, doesn't line up either. And I mean, there's enough blame to go around all over that. The line didn't give him enough time to make another read. They were in his face when he threw that. He makes the wrong decision, or at least based on what he saw. And then again, like I said, the receiver, was on the ground at that point. So not a great way to start the game at all for our first series, especially after holding them scoreless on their first drive.
From there, I don't think there was too much to criticize other than that pick six in the first half, right? Overall, the defense dominated for 99% of the first half, and you felt like we were in control of the game, even though, we weren't throwing a ton of points up on the board, but it felt like the momentum was in favor of the Bearcats, and it was in control. And then with, I think, 44 seconds left, BYU had 39 total yards, I think it was, and correct me if I'm wrong. And then they basically tripled that in 39 seconds. It takes it all the way down the field for a touchdown to go up 14-10. And I guess that was like there was whatever adjustments were made at the half. It was like a Band-Aid when you needed a whole amputation or something, basically, because the wheels fell off pretty quickly after that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you get the crowd back into it too.
Momentum like swung.
Momentum swung. Instead of them, maybe sitting there and kind of stewing in some silence over the half, and maybe that changes your play calling coming out of the half. I mean, on that drive, before that he had 2 passing yards apparently. Yeah. So, one completion, just right in the middle of that zone between the safeties and linebackers, rushed 3. You would hope that coverage was enough, but when someone comes into your zone, you have to go with them a little bit and at least contest the catch. Obviously, you can't bite too hard because if there's nothing behind you, then there's nothing behind you. So then what do we do? Next play, we send more, man on the outside, and he makes a great catch. Pass interference. The next play, soft in my opinion, a little bit. At least
weak for sure.
Yeah. I see it. I get it. Not one I would have called though. There was a lot of hand fighting. Also, what do you expect your defender to do at that point? Not reach around, And maybe what got him in trouble was pulling his arms down at the end there. It's hard to say what's in their mind, in their heart of hearts on that one. But really, all that can be forgiven until they actually score there. That's where I thought we spotted them some points because, it ends up being a wide open man just waiting at the end zone. And I broke this down a little bit. So you got 3. You have trips. Well, if you're looking at it from the defense perspective, you get trips right. 3 guys over there. Dingle bumps out to help in coverage. You got Pace over there. Sammy Anderson, Taj Ward, the corner and the safety. Go with the 2 outside receivers as they start the routes that break inward. While that's happening, the high safety also goes in coverage to help them out. But then what's left is Dingle kind of bumping out to set the zone for himself, and the inside receiver making a break and no one going with him because anyone else who's left is already taken out of view. Leaving them wide open. That's definitely a miscommunication of whose ever man that was. You can play that a few different ways. Either you're it's hard to say because you don't know exactly what our defense called there. Either you are standing straight man to man who you're over and that's your guy, or you're passing off responsibility as guys moving in and out of your picture there. So maybe the corner takes him as he comes outward. But I mean, at the end of the day, clearly miscommunication, free man running, touchdown. And that really cannot happen. And that's just a straight lapse. And that's why I kind of consider it spotting them points, because you have to at least make them work for it. And when you don't make them work for it, then what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, and then I mean, so after you go into halftime, it's 14-10. You feel a little deflated because you had just really dominated on defense, almost the entire first half. And then I believe on their opening possession, because they got the ball back at the beginning of the third, I think, and they come right out and they score another touchdown on the back of LJ Martin. Like he had like a 30-yard run. And then all of a sudden you're down 21-10 and I'm stressing out at that point in time.
Yeah, I mean, even with BYU picking up their blocking assignments on that, because I mean, you'd expect if things line up perfectly, your D linemen have those linemen accounted for, but they shed some of those blocks to move upfield. Even still, you have two guys available to make a tackle. First guy completely just misses. Well, he doesn't miss, but he just gets bounced. Shoestring on the ground, and then Pace gets pretty much juked out of his shoes on that one and is reaching back for it. And at that point, Taj Ward's not going to have the angle to attack that, and boom, end zone. Freshman running back getting them points, not what you like to see coming out of half at all.
No, and then that's followed up by a field goal by the Bearcats. And then a defensive, great finally another defensive stop where BYU punts. We're thinking, all right, hey, we can march down the field, do something else with it. And then, one of the most boneheaded decisions I've seen on a football field for the Bearcats in quite some time, Braden Smith, right? That's who it was. The punt lands in front of him. The ball bounces up 4 or 5 feet above his head, and he goes up with two hands like he's trying to do a volleyball block across the net to block the ball, and BYU recovers. 4 plays later, they're up 28-13, and brutal mistake at the complete wrong time when you just think maybe you can swing the momentum back in your favor. And then now all of a sudden you're in a way deeper hole.
Yeah. That's just and there you go. There's your third spotter right there as far as, spotting them some points. That is one of those things that just cannot happen. And if you look at this game, even how the announcers were describing it, BYU was doing just enough. Mm-hmm. Anytime a team's doing just enough, they're not necessarily beating you. They're taking advantage of your mistakes and keeping it and not making mistakes of their own. Even if they're not making spectacular plays, they're keeping it in check. And you have to, beat teams like that.
Yeah, I mean, and like I love that you say that they were doing just enough. Again, it's another game where the Bearcats pretty much dominate every stat in the box here. 26 first downs for the Bearcats, 17 for BYU. Bearcats put up 498 yards to 295. Time of possession, 35 minutes to 24, or we'll call it 25. If had you went to bed, not watched the rest of the game, just looked at the team stats and the box score without seeing the final result, you're like, man, Bearcats probably won by 21.
Yeah.
And somehow they did not.
No.
And it's spotting 2 turnovers, right? The pick six, the muff punt. I don't even call it, if you call it a muff. I don't know what you would call it. But those two are brutal. If you take those 2 things away, or maybe just one of them, it's a much different ball game here. Still, tell me, Darin, are you still mad that we haven't scored in the red zone? Like we scored 3 touchdowns, right? on Friday night. None of them. They took my advice and said just skip the red zone and score outside of them. I think I said that somewhere along the way here. So that's basically what they did. They never punched it in the red zone. I'm not as mad about not scoring in the red zone this week now that we actually scored some touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, when you're not being held scoreless, from your offense, it. I mean, there's a lot of people who are questioning how efficient or how proper offense actually was able to work. This at least proves that to people, that it's not broken necessarily. And even the moments in the red zone, a drop from our running back comes to mind. Obviously Emery's got to put a little bit of a softer touch on that.
That was a dart for sure.
But you got to catch that as well. And on that play, and I don't know, obviously that bounces out of his hands. He puts it where he can catch it still. Kind of it just pops out of his hands. Braden Smith was coming around the back on that in motion. I don't know if he was a decoy or not, but there was an option there to give it to him, potentially. I'm not sure. Because Emery sort of did like a handoff, but there's no one to hand it off to, and then he looks kind of down. Maybe it was an option from the pitch it out to Braden, but there's potential there for a touchdown going the opposite way. Hard to say. Again, I don't know what the exact specific call is. You're not going to know. But it looked like there was another chance there. Obviously, Singletary on a first down conversion drops a similar pass. Again, a little too much zest, but still, you have hands on it, so you got to come down with it.
What that play that you're talking about there, where he zipped it to Kiner, and it did look like he turned around and he wanted to hand the ball off.
Yeah.
So I feel as though they run that action like on purpose sometimes, especially I thought early in the game, like he would, fake a hand. It was like fake play action or something. I don't know what you would call that, but it looked like that's been designed into some plays sometimes. And that play, it did not look designed for whatever reason. Like Jones took like an extra second back there. Like, oh shit, this isn't what's supposed to be happening right now. So I don't know if it was miscommunication or what, but I thought, because like I said, that action is built in sometimes, it looks like. I don't love it, to be honest with you. The fake handoff throwing and no one back there type of, it just looks like when he's
that's what I wonder. Like, was he supposed to be in further, into where to fill in where Kiner was leading? Should kind of should he have snapped it sooner? Like I said, because there was an option there, you wonder if it was supposed to look a little different. I will say, and we'll get into positive later. I do like what they are doing with Emery getting, in motion, out of the pocket, rolling out. He seems like he's better when he's moving. Not that he can't sit in the pocket, but the pocket isn't reliable as it stands now.
It's not there long.
So I thought the play calling was leaps better for what we saw. It's not like we haven't been moving the ball before. It's just the actual touchdowns being scored off it this time around.
I think my only knock on the play calling this week was, I know we ran the ball 47 times. I'd have ran it 67 or 70 times. Like, is the way that we moved the football, especially in the first half, and then at times in the second half as well. But there was nothing they could do to stop Kiner, especially in that first half. I mean, at one point in time, maybe deep into the second quarter, he was averaging like 6 yards a carry. At one point in time, Jones was averaging like 9 yards a carry. I know, like, you're playing the race against the clock, especially when you're down in the second half, so that eats it up. But man, if we looked really good running the football for at least the first like 2.5 quarters on Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, the holes are opening up there. Even having, as far as having escape routes for Emery, I wonder if they stress that in practice this week. If there's not going to be anything downfield, make sure your quarterback has an escape route. And then obviously, for the actual, designated run plays, make sure those holes are there, not just stuffed right away. Yeah, no, I don't have too many complaints about like at least how our running execution is as a unit. I mean, maybe more individual criticisms. Kind of when the hole is there, he hits it and he can run over a guy or two. But sometimes he runs into somebody and that's just it. That's where he stops. That's where the play ends. I think he could be a little bit better at that, especially if you're going to be a power back like that. You got to keep the legs moving and keep going, especially your center of gravity being lower.
Throw me another negative here. What else? What else we're looking at here?
I mean, it's really just discipline as a whole. The penalties, not like, I mean, it wasn't an obscenely high amount, but it was enough for you to give pause. And obviously I said that PI was soft earlier, but you also want to still make sure you're not in a situation where they can call it. Getting backed up, holding. Obviously the execution side. Just the dumb mistakes. We mentioned the interception. We mentioned trying to tip a ball. I thought the D-line did a little bit better, running, some twists and stunts. So they're not just firing downhill and getting blown, wide open for gaps.
Seemed like Dante kind of had a quiet night.
Yeah. Finishing
overall,
with no sacks, if I'm mistaken. I mean, the closest we got was them snapping the ball backwards and it just rolling back and them having to fall on it. And then some tackles for losses. The style of defense where we want to play, where it has to be downhill, and then you want your DBs to also play the ball. Really kind of shot us in the foot on, I want to say that was their second to last touchdown they got. The quarterback side steps are in coming off the edge there. I want to say Corey almost gets to him, but then he tosses it up. The receiver that's supposed to be there falls down, but then here comes another receiver cutting in and then taking it up and up to the end zone. Threats was sitting there because it looked like he assumed the ball was going to fall to him, because you see him kind of sit there and waiting with the breadbasket, but then because he's not playing the men potentially, he's not there to help out. He's just a body there in the way. And that's kind of the live by the 3, die by the 3 mentality, and how that can bite you. And it kind of bit us in the rear end there.
So one thing that we're trying to do for each game, a little like 90-second or less video on keys to the dub. I put out the first one for Friday night. I threw out what I thought if we could do these 3 things, the Bearcats would come away with a win. It was run the ball effectively. And I think we did that pretty damn well. 242 rushing yards, Kiner with 77, Jones with 94. The second one was score in the red zone. We didn't do that, but we did score just outside. So that's a half and half completed there. And then the third, the defense had to perform again. They had to play like they did against Oklahoma. You right, held them to 20 when they averaged 55. BYU came into the game averaging 30. I thought we needed to hold them to less than that. They hit 35. So really, out of the 3 keys here, I'd say we got maybe 1.5. And of course, we did not come home with the dub. So that's unfortunate there. Look out for more of those videos each week as we put more of those on YouTube and some other things that we have in the works there. But yeah, I definitely, if you're not achieving all the keys to the game, definitely have to throw that out as a negative or something else we got to work on. Because I think if they'd obviously if we'd held them under 30 points and actually not spotted them the 2 scores basically, I think we get pretty much all three of the keys here, and we win. But it is what it is. We got a bye week coming up here this coming weekend, Darin. What do you think Satterfield has these guys focused on or working on, or what are they tweaking or throwing in that maybe we haven't seen yet? Or are they getting back to basics so they can, do what they want to do effectively against Iowa State, who I think is a winnable game for us? Like that it's at home, it's homecoming. We got the week off to prepare for it. I'm going to go ahead and say this right now that I think Iowa State at home, homecoming, 3-game losing streak. I'm going to say this is a must-win game for us. And I don't know. You can tell me your thoughts on that here too. But what do you think before that? What are they working on this week?
I think it's back to basics because almost you don't know what you haven't seen at this point because you haven't seen it. It feels like we've thrown everything at it as far as when it comes to play calling and looks, decisions, gambling. So I do think it's back to basics. This really kind of folds in to something I wanted to get into. Who do you blame? Obviously it's going to be the coach, then the quarterback, as far as what people want to do. They're
Right.
the most visible people when it comes to a football team. They're the easiest to target. But in that same breath, I don't think it's anything wrong with singling people like that out. But know why you're mad at them, and not just to be mad at them. What is it that they need to do that you need them to do to make the situation better? In this situation, it's not necessarily Satterfield's play calling. I think there were some moments on defense we could have called things a little bit better, but overall that hasn't been a big problem because the defense hasn't been stopping people. It's more so that he needs to hammer down, like drill it into the players' heads, execution, mistakes, get that under control. Obviously, players are going to be the ones to play the game. But at a certain point, when you kind of see some things consistently happening or how they're performing, it falls back to the coach to attempt to correct that. So I do think it is basics with that. For Emory himself, he's not perfect, but he is our best chance at winning as it stands. For him, just be a little bit smarter with the ball. Better decision making. I liked what I saw this week. He was 3-1 on the touchdown and the interception ratio. So moving up overall, he's 10-6. But I thought he was making a few better moves this week. So I think they've already started working with him on that, or at least mentioning those things. But again, overall, just return to basics is a pretty good shout out. They'd have to at this point. You can't have another game where you're in it and you're shooting yourself in the foot like you did. You just can't.
Yeah, I think I was prepared for a season of a bunch of close games, right? I thought it would be the one possession, maybe play a couple overtime games. We've already seen one against Miami, but when you are losing these close games due to execution, that's which is what we've seen. That's the problem, right? Like it's not like we had no chance to win the past 3 games. We had the chances. Should have won. Easily could have won 3 out of the 3 or 2 out of the 3 or what have you. So I agree with you there. A back to basics sort of approach I wouldn't mind to see. And as far as the blame goes, like it's that we're gonna debate or see people all season long and beyond, because it's just piling on to Satterfield. I'm not ready to call for his head yet, right? Like I think that's premature, and
It's a ridiculous conversation to have even at this point.
Yeah, like it's like even we expected 6-6. That's what I'm speaking for myself here, but that's sort of what a lot of people expected this year. But if you go back to let's go back to Rick Mentor and on, like first year coaches, and then you add in going into a new conference, which is another wrinkle that we really don't. I mean, we could look that up as well, but like Rick Mentor, his first season here is 2-8. Mark D'Antonio 7-5. I would take that. He was here 2 years before going to Michigan State. Brian Kelly, he was probably the quickest, most successful coach right off the bat, being 10-3 his first year. You know, was he riding Mark D'Antonio's coattails? I don't know. I didn't say that. I just heard other people say it. Butch Jones 4-8. Tuberville, we'll skip him because he sucks. And then he was 9-3 though. And then Fickles 4-8 as well. I think the difference is from now and from all those coaches though, there were no expectations. Like, you know, Brian Kelly's first year here was my freshman year at UC, right? I had zero expectations for Bearcats football. Like, I grew up watching basketball. I was, you know, excited to attend a crosstown shootout as a student and do all these things. So, like, I mean, yeah, it was cool. Like, I slept out camped out on O-Varsity Way for football tickets for the Louisville game as a freshman and whatnot. But, you know, then when he finally left to go to Notre Dame, it wasn't like, well, to me at least, there was no expectations for the next guy because we didn't have that like sustained success really. But now that we're sitting here and there's been coaches who's been successful here, like going back to, you know, however far long you want to go back, and then going to the college football playoff, and, you know, all the spotlight and the you know, being drunk off of success here. With the program has changed, so expectations have changed, and Satterfield does not get the benefit of the doubt of us being like a startup program anymore, I think.
Well, that goes back to what we were talking about last week. You know, we have a standard now.
Right.
The expectations are different. Those are you know, short term versus long term. So it's like, what do we expect him to do in the road to getting to that standard versus you know, being the standard? We don't know yet. I mean, I'll put it this way: you can not like the hire. I mean, me and Hummer talked about this in the little watch along party we had this weekend. You're valid in not liking the hire initially, or having your own opinions about the hire. You're valid in, you know, having criticisms about what you see, but in that same breath, know what you're mad about and what your actual criticisms are, and not just, we're losing, I don't like it, we're the coach. You know, what is the problem versus you know, who is the problem, I guess.
You want to flip to what we liked this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually do have, you know, I have a handful of them here. I think there were some bright spots along the way. To get things kicked off here, I think Shimon Mateer is slowly becoming an offensive weapon, a go-to, maybe even slowly but surely. It was certainly good to see him. He had 3 catches for 60 yards, I think, and 2 touchdowns. Right? He had 2, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he's becoming a weapon all over the field. I love to see that. And hopefully that, that chemistry between him and Jones continues to build, and we see even more production from him. Big fan of tight ends being productive on the Bearcats football field.
Oh, of course. He's sort of like that new lawnmower you bought but haven't used yet, so it's been sitting in the garage, and you just kind of have to get it going a little bit to, you know, really start to use. Like, he started to slowly, like you said, become a weapon for this offense, and I think he's starting to find his place. Obviously, you have a role as a tight end, but then discovering your own style and how you play and how you get things done. He seems like he's starting to figure that out, or even the coaches are starting to figure out how to get him involved and what he can do. Miles Montgomery, he is, you know, for sure the back of the future. I mean, maybe even later this year, he might just become that dude. I was talking to Coomer about, you know, like, he's got the tools there. Maybe he's not the complete package yet. His running style is a little dangerous at times. It feels like he can get low, but at times he's too upright, and you kind of, it hasn't happened yet, but you feel like that ball's gonna get popped out at some point with how he runs, because he bounces and like goes and flips around and he contorts, and it's great for getting extra yards. But you gotta make sure you're keeping it close to the chest there. Again, it hasn't had been a problem yet, but it looks like the potential is there. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised even by the end of the year that he is just that guy. I like seeing Aaron Turner get more involved.
Aaron, okay. I like that.
They use him on a few sweeps in motion. And then I liked them seeing them roll Emery out more. I think he's way better in motion than he is just kind of waiting. The line looked like they blocked a little bit better this week. I think he got sacked once. They were definitely getting in the backfield, but I think he was only sacked once this past game. So yeah.
To go off of that, I thought, and tell me if you noticed this as well, but like when Jones, whether it was a design run or whenever he was running, he was kind of making me nervous a little bit, because I thought he was running hard. Love to see that. I think he was running to win, and he didn't take a whole lot of slides. He didn't run out of bounds to avoid taking hits. I think he took some big licks on Friday night, which you're like, man, like that makes you nervous. I love the aggressiveness, the, quote unquote, playing football the right way or playing to win or whatever, getting that extra yard or two or whatever. I love seeing that. But at the same time, a couple times I held my breath because I was like, man, he just got popped hard. So I mean, good with the bad there. I like the mentality of that running, though, as long as he doesn't get hurt. Yeah,
he definitely took some shots there. That red zone trip we talked about, where it ended, with a field goal and a drop ball. Before that, he, took off. And there was a moment where I was like, okay, if he can, like, I kind of saw it, like, if he can cut back in, he either gets a few more yards or a touchdown, and they just stuck him like straight up. I'm like, well, he's like, obviously he's caught there, and he's like still trying to go. I'm like, just go down, man. They got you. But I mean, that actually brings me to the other positive I forgot. There's a lot of fight in this team still. They do not like to lose. I hope that's not anything anybody thinks is the case. They definitely do not like to lose. I mean, the fact that we were still in and with a chance at that onside kick, which props to him. I think that was a well kicked ball, but they just made a better play on it. But this team fights to the end. I mean, for people who want to call Satterfield the second Tuberville, I don't know about that yet, because last time Tuberville was around in BYU, that ended a little differently. So
that's not the. I'll make a comparison, not now, but maybe one day. But it is not Tommy Tuberville. And you're right, showing that fight and actually being involved, actually not asleep or already on the plane would be evidence of that. So yeah, I mean, it's easy to say Tommy Tuberville because that's what's most recent. In our most recent memory, but that's not the comparison I would go for Satterfield right now. But I'm going to keep that opinion to myself for the time.
Jury's out,
Yeah, yeah. The defense looked good for 99% of the first half, like we said. I mean, there was nothing BYU could do until they finally figured something out. But I wish it would have been a little bit different. I don't know. Maybe, you can give me a little bit more insight on the X's and O's as far as what you thought maybe we switched up or didn't do right on defense when, they finally, maybe BYU just finally woke up or something. But for, like we said, most of the first half, it looked like it was going to be a long night for the offense for the Cougars.
Yeah. I mean, that last drive, just some of it just getting out coached, some of it just getting outplayed. That second completion, our corners lost the fight on that ball.
Yeah.
And props to their quarterback for throwing a dime on that. But because at that point we rushed 6 after rushing 3 the play before. So the adjustment was made. It just,
Mhm.
it didn't work. They didn't get home. It didn't work out. Then PI obviously on that one, some discipline, and then of course nobody going with the man on that touchdown. But again, I mean, there's two ways to put pressure on an offense. One, obviously your defense drawing it up, and then two, your offense scoring points. Make them compete with you versus you have to compete with them. So, but no, I mean, yeah, our defense always gives us a chance. I mean, I didn't see anything too egregious. I mean, it wasn't their best night out, but they, still had. They didn't like take a backslide necessarily. So,
as far as positive, that's pretty much all I have. You have anything else that you liked what you saw on Friday?
yeah, I guess the offense played a little bit better, just a bit.
Touchdowns,
Obviously,
that's nice.
yeah. Obviously, they got closer to the red zone and scored this time. And even and even in this situation, obviously everybody remembers the bad, but there was a chance to score, in the red zone these other times. So it's not like the wrong plays were necessarily called on that execution, throwing a little bit softer, catching it,
Mm-hmm.
maybe making the right read or running the route properly, blocking. But I didn't really get too much of any of the play calls. Again, Emory played a slightly better game this time. Obviously, a mistake like a pick six is going to look bigger when you lose. But I thought he was playing a little better. Again, no quitting him. He wants to win. Yeah, don't really talk about the luck factor because, again, you got to play well enough that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think so. Darin, the last thing I want to talk about today is kind of something that we haven't really done yet, but sort of now that we're 2 games into Big 12 play, I thought it'd be kind of interesting to see where the rest of the Big 12 sits. Maybe even talk if you want to. I know you're a college football junkie. If so, you do. Overall, I think the Big 12 is not as good as what people had expected as a conference overall. I think Texas is really, really good, better than what some people had imagined. But do you have like a either in a good way or a bad way a biggest surprise so far in the Big 12?
I mean, yeah, us for one. I think we expected a little bit better than what we're seeing.
Okay.
But then again, obviously, you got to also go back to some of your expectations you set at the beginning of the season and not abandon them. But we quickly abandoned those after we went 2-0. Thought UCF would do a little bit better.
So Cincinnati, Houston, UCF,
Houston's
all
about
0-2.
what I expected, actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely interesting. So, I mean, out of the 4 new teams, there's 1 Big 12 win combined, and that's because 1 new team beat another one. So that's interesting. I think that right now West Virginia is a huge surprise, sitting at 4-1 overall, 2-0 in the Big 12 after beating TCU this weekend. I expected them maybe to be like 1-4 right now. To be honest, I did not think they were going to be any good whatsoever, and they are, long season yet to go. But right now, them sitting at 4-1 and 2-0 in the conference, surprised. I'm surprised, and I'll be watching them a little closer to see if if Brown is actually going to completely turn that program around and not be fired, because we thought maybe by the time we rolled into Morgantown at the end of the season, they'd have a an interim coach or something, because it was going to be that bad. Off to a decent start right now.
Yeah, I mean, in that same breath, TCU's not doing the best. I mean, they're 3-2. Still kind of hard to completely separate yourself if you're not sitting at like 4-1 or 5-0 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So 3-2 and 2 versus 2-3 isn't, too different right now. But the American teams coming in aren't doing too hot. I would give it to BYU. Obviously, we did a lot to beat ourselves that game. They did enough to not lose the game as well. But I think BYU for a while has built their teams, a little bit more closer to being a Power 5 team than most of the G5 teams, just because they have a little bit of that pedigree left over from the 80s. But the American former athletic conference guys are struggling a little bit here. UCF, I mean, there was rumblings of they're not too happy with Gus right now. They're dropping some sat takes on him.
The meltdown that they had at Baylor or against Baylor this week Baylor 26 points in the fourth quarter to beat them 36-35. And it was my buddy Nick was telling me, I didn't see the end of the game, or I hadn't even watched highlights at that point either of the game, but he broke down the last possession for Baylor or whatever and how they won it. So they UCF fans had to be very mad, considering they were dominating that game. Really. It was 35 to 35-10 or something like that. I think they said it was the biggest comeback in Baylor football history, or the biggest fourth quarter comeback or something.
Is it their biggest
pretty wild ending there?
Is that their biggest bottle for UCF then too? Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and you think, because I don't know if you saw their play where they their crazy fourth down conversion, he pretty much scrambles all the way back to the end zone and completes the pass.
Yeah.
So
the backup quarterback or whatever. I don't know why Plumlee was out. Yeah,
no, he's been out for, I think he's been banged up. So
he didn't play in the Baylor game at all.
I don't believe so.
Maybe I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I've been wrong before. Good. He did not. You're right. It's Timmy McClain. He played.
Our old friend Timmy McClain.
Yeah, buddy. Huh. Well, that'll be interesting. But I'd keep an eye on the Big 12. Definitely some interesting teams to watch. I was hoping Kansas could pull the upset and be the kryptonite to Texas, as they have been so often in recent years. But Texas ended up working them pretty good, 40-14. That was sad, but it looks like Texas is quite legit. We'll see if they. I'm not saying that they're back yet. Maybe we should say that they're back just so they jinx themselves. But big win over a ranked Kansas team. So we got this weekend off. We got to reset, recharge our batteries, and then we're back on the grid at the Den, tailgating or wherever you celebrate homecoming. So a little chance to reset our batteries before coming back on the 14th, is it? And raging, see if we can't get a win. And last thing, I had predicted the Bearcats to lose on the podcast last week.
Yeah. And
by the time Friday rolled around, I convinced myself that we could win. And I actually I bought a case of Cincy Light to crack open, after the game. That's how confident I was going into it. And I guess it'll sit in the fridge a little while longer, at least I'll definitely save that until we win another game. Even though I will have to take a brief reprieve for the anniversary, but I was confident. I bought a case. It'll sit here. It'll last that long at least. Darin, you got anything else before we call it a day?
No, I was going to say the Dan would appreciate that donation, I guess.
There we go.
It goes quick.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa State. We see them on the way back. It's hard to know what they are yet as a team. We'll get into that more next week, I assume.
Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely come back. We might maybe we bring back the guys from Wide Right and Cincy Light. That they were a fun bunch to learn from over the summer, and they were definitely talked of doing stuff again since then. So maybe I'll reach out to them. I do have another guest in mind. I talked to you about it at the den. I've reached out to her. I haven't heard anything back yet. So we'll see if we can't get a guest or two for next week on the bye week, and then come in ready for the Iowa State game.
Looking forward to it.
Definitely, dude. All right, I will talk to you later. Cheers.
Cheers.